Are you a video conferencer? I'm guessing in this season of quarantine, if you anything like me, Zoom has become a very popular platform, or Google Meets, or Facebook Messenger Rooms, or Skype even still, or Webex. There's so many video conferencing platforms. Who knows what's the best one, but it has been an interesting journey. So let's take a look at the history of video conferencing from my perspective. I'd love to hear your perspective as well in the comments. And let's talk about where video conferencing is today and where it's probably going tomorrow. Let's talk about it. All right, I'm Nils Smith. I'm your social media guide, and today we're going to talk about video conferencing. Video conferencing is a huge way people are interacting socially online. In this quarantine season, it has become huge. Now, the reality is video conferencing has been a part of our world for more than a decade, and people have been using all kinds of devices to talk back and forth. And I remember maybe 15 years ago doing my first video conference call in a conference room, and this building had this fancy technology with a camera built in and a TV on the wall, one of those big TVs without, not the flat screen, but a big old school television, and they're talking room to room through that television. And it has come a long way since then, but think about the history of maybe how you've done video conferencing, and I think it really started with Skype. Skype was basically like the Kleenex, where Kleenex is to facial tissues, and we all just call them all Kleenex, where Skype was like, oh, do you want to Skype? But that could mean that you were using Google Hangouts, or that could mean you were using Zoom, and people for years have called Skype all video conferencing with Skype. Then Skype was acquired by Microsoft, and then it just seemed like it just never got better, and everybody else passed them by, and Skype is still around, and I have a username somewhere, and I haven't used it in years, and every now and then I'll get a request to a Skype call. I'm like, hey, can we do something else? It's interesting kind of how this journey has developed. And after Skype, there was Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts was cool, and it was sleek, and it was Google, but it just didn't work very good. I don't know if you ever tried, like, hey, are you in this room? Or wait, how are you? I thought I sent you a link, and why didn't you go to this room? And it was always a mess trying to coordinate a Google Hangout call. Now, once you were in, it was cool, and it was great, and it was sleek, and it looked a lot better than Skype, but it definitely didn't work better. And then there was Webex, and Webex was like the professional platform. And when I was going to go to like a legit meeting, we were going to use Webex, and Webex was solid, it was secure, and that's what you used for business. You used Google Hangouts and Skype for your personal and family, but Webex was for business. And then Zoom came along and saved the day. You're a Zoom user? You know, about 5 years ago, I got my first Zoom account, and it was like, I remember sending it to people, and people were like, whoa, this is so good. And I was the guy that introduced people to Zoom, and now everybody is Zooming. And I remember it was just kind of like, look, I use this for everything. And today I spend probably about 4 to 5 hours a day on Zoom. It is the go-to video conferencing platform. But the reality is, in this COVID time, there were some hiccups with Zoom security, and people were finding some other platforms. And now all of a sudden, Facebook is prioritizing video conferencing, and Google is prioritizing video conferencing. But even before that, there was FaceTime, and Apple got into the game, and Apple, with all the iPhones, iPhone to iPhone, FaceTime became the go-to, and it's almost replaced Skype from a language standpoint of, do you want to FaceTime? And that often means Zoom, or that often means Google, but that means face-to-face video conferencing. And so FaceTime has come out there. So we've got Zoom for professional and FaceTime for personal if you're iPhone to iPhone. But if you're like me and I'm now a Google user, FaceTime doesn't necessarily work. And Google Meet has really stepped up. It's no longer Google Hangouts, it's Google Meet. And Google Meet actually works, and it actually works well. And it's good, and it's browser-based. And I think I'm one of those internet guys that believes everything should be browser-based. So I'm excited about what's happening with Google Meet. But right around the corner, Facebook comes along, and they've been doing video conferencing for a while, but it's just not caught on in a huge way. But they've now introduced Messenger Rooms and Facebook Portal. And one of the things I did this Christmas is I said for years, we should be able to hook up a camera to a Roku or one of these connected TV devices and talk conference room to conference room, or instead of having to put a computer in a conference room, can't you just connect to one of those smart TV devices? Well, Facebook created Facebook Portal, and in that little basically webcam that you connect to your TV, you can video conference easily, and it tracks you, and it's like $150 or less. Now, it's amazing how accessible they've made video conferencing, or even just creating like a little picture frame video conference, which is basically a tablet that just does Messenger. They've made it easy. And easy is important when it comes to video conferencing. In Messenger rooms, now you can have up to 50 people in a Messenger room. They've made it scalable and solid. So today we got options. You got Zoom, you got FaceTime, you've got Facebook Messenger rooms. I'm curious, what are you using? Where do you think this is going? What are the tools that are important? Why do you use what video conferencing platform that you use? Where do you see this all going? I think Zoom is going to continue to win. I think Zoom has the most functionality. I think Zoom lets you password protect. Zoom is still the easiest to use. Zoom, I love their whiteboard functionality. I love their chat functionality. I think they're going to continue to win, but the reality is it's hard to beat free. So let's see where this all goes. Love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Love being your social media guide. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk to you on the next episode.